Well, with Valentine's Day coming up, a word of warning for those looking for love. Scammers are looking to take advantage of your heart.
Yeah, it's no surprise that romance scams are on the rise, but how do we know what's real and what's fake? Well, we called in the expert, Robin with the BBB, Middle Tennessee. Welcome in.
Thank you for having me. And, you know, big business, about a $4 billion business.
Oh my goodness. And you say we need to always be on the lookout. What are some of those red flags?
So clearly there's a lot of dating apps out there. They're all very legitimate, really great companies. But unfortunately what ends up happening is you connect with someone who, quite frankly, goes from like to love a little fast. They work really hard to have you communicate off the application or off the website because they know those very legitimate companies are monitoring those communications. And one of the other big red flags is they try to isolate you from friends and family because they know if you get good advice from someone who has a strange gut check about this, you're probably going to back away. And so they'll immediately start to move you away. Let's keep this relationship private. This is just between you and me. And so those are the first three things you want to look for. Yeah. And then sadly, once they've identified that you're in love with them and they're in love with you, well, then there's family crises that require money.
Yes, yes. Well, and it's like something you see on, you know, 2020.
Right.
But it happens here locally. You have two stories.
Yeah,
sadly.
we unfortunately have a couple of victims, and realize it's not just dating sites, it's really any site that you share information in. Okay. So, for example, we had a Fitbit victim. So she had shared her personal information about her fitness goals and her weight loss goals. She was in a community that would cheer her on, and that's how the gentleman found her. And so after a couple of weeks of congratulating her on meeting her goals, he got her to communicate offline, start via email. At one point, again, of course, he always had the family crisis. She did send him a small amount of money, but when he thanked her, he included a link to a song he thought she would like, not realizing that when she clicked on that link, it gave him full access to her computer.
Oh my goodness.
And so now he was able to threaten her with things about her children, her family, whatever, because he had all the information about her banking, credit cards, everything. And so, you know, it's a very scary space out there, but time is always your greatest asset. Take your time whenever you're entering into any of these kinds of relationships and ask questions about your family and your friends to see what they think.
Well, and you guys have some advice for those that may fall into this, right? Y'all have a book of some sort?
Yeah, we do. So if you go to Scam Tracker or bbb.org, we actually have a toolkit, if you will, to avoid these kind of scams that will help you with not only if you fall victim, what to do next, but also how to avoid it.
Well, how do we avoid it? Because I don't want to skip out on that full screen. We had that up there in the control room, if we could see that. Here we go. Okay, so how do we avoid the romance scams?
So do your research. So for example, that photo that gentleman or that woman have on their screen, do a reverse lookup and see if it's showing anywhere else. Chances are it's probably in 100 of other locations, so you're going to know right away.
The photo.
This is not the man or woman of your dreams.
How do you do that? Google?
Yeah, you go to Google and you do a reverse lookup. So you can just sort of copy and paste that picture and go and see. We say the same thing, believe it or not, about puppy scams to be sure that that puppy is legitimate. One of the other things is just take your time. Ask a lot of detailed questions. Make sure you're asking as much about them as they are about you. Remember, like to love shouldn't happen overnight, so that's a big flag. But also, make sure that when they ask to communicate with you off the site, that's a big red flag. Don't do that. Do not do that.
How are some of these scammers traced? Like, and are there consequences in these cases?
Yeah, unfortunately, it's difficult to do anything through law enforcement because most of them are overseas. The single greatest country for fraud in this area is Cameroon. And so there's literally professional phone rooms that are set up to do this all day long.
Wow.
And so sadly, it's very difficult to ever get the money back or to ever find the person that actually perpetrated it. Because chances are it could be several people that are communicating with you. So again, you've got to really slow your roll, so to speak. And you know, another flag I didn't mention is they rarely want to meet you in person.
Yes.
And so that's one that when you're trying to meet them for coffee or lunch and they're giving you every excuse in the book that they can't, that's probably a stay away.
Very good. Very good tips. You always, the BBB has our back. I love that. We're out of time. Thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Robin.
Happy to be here.
Appreciate you.
Yes. Y'all remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Check with BBB before you get scammed. They are in your corner. You can find them at bbb.org.